It is time to update my favorite series list. I like to do this once every year or so. It's been like a year and a half for me. But I like to do it every now and then because I'm constantly reading new series, and thankfully that means that this list is ever changing because I'm finding new great books. So this is my top 5 list with 1 honorable mention, and in this list there are 3 new books. I've read so many great things! But before we get into the list of awesome series, a shout out to today's sponsor, Babble. Babble teaches real-world, practical conversations in short 10-minute lessons. Also, this is the most interactive and fun way that I've ever attempted to learn a language. They use a bunch of different ways to help you learn, from lessons to podcasts. They have games and videos and live classes with real teachers. And one thing that's really important to me is that it's actually teaching me the rules as I go. One big hurdle for me, as I've repeatedly tried to get started on learning a language, Spanish specifically, is the immersion technique just doesn't work for me. Just throwing me into the deep end and I'll pick it up, I'll see the patterns along the way, is really overwhelming. My brain, I need the rules, I need the understanding, I need the why, so that my brain can feel like it's capable to wrap its way around something. So we get the immersion technique with Babble, but along with that, it pauses to explain why we're using a different word in different situations. And then it goes over that over and over again with me in different ways with different patterns. And it's also giving a good amount of focus on spelling too, so that I can actually read and write in this language too, which I really appreciate.
¿Quién es ella?
Ella es Julieta, mi hermana.
¿Y quién es él?
Él es Álvaro, mi novio.
I got to customize my motivation for wanting to learn Spanish, which is because we're planning a trip to Costa Rica and I want to be able to communicate. So it's tailoring my lessons according to what I specified I want to learn it for. I'm genuinely enjoying using Babble and highly recommend checking it out. And if you use the link in my description, you get 65% off your subscription. Back to the video. Because these are my favorite stories, I tend to talk about a lot of them a lot, so I will do my best to keep the descriptions brief and give you a concise list of the best from my perspective. There will also be a video. The next video will be favorite standalones, because that list also needs updating. I'm starting with number 1, working my way down to 5 and the honorable mention because I do YouTube wrong. Number 1, you will all be surprised to hear, is The Lies of Locke Lamora. I know, right? She's consistent, at least. My pitch for this book is, think Ocean's 11, Leverage, but set in a low, grimdark world. What I love about these books, many things I love. But Locke is a thief. He was a child who was sold to a thief maker, a man who trains these kids up in the arts of lying and thieving and grifting. And these characters are very good at what they do and get way in over their head. So Locke plans this elaborate heist that will be the score of the century. However, they're not quite as capable as they think. Locke is cunning and smart and clever and so full of himself, and it means that the stakes in the series are very real. This band of thieves, the Gentlemen Bastards, are such a tight-knit group of family that will do anything for each other, that play off of each other amazingly. The humor in this story is unmatched. I'm gonna say it, you'll disagree with me because the series it doesn't suit everyone. I know that. Unmatched. The humor is so good. I laugh out loud constantly reading these books. I love them so much. The series has very mixed reviews. A lot of people that read it come back to me and say, oh my goodness, I love it. It's one of my favorites too. And a lot of people come back and say, no, that wasn't good. You can think what you think. This is what I think. Best. Next up is One Piece, another surprising choice. Boy oh boy did One Piece take me by surprise. I was not much of a manga reader, though I was trying to get into the medium, went into One Piece knowing nothing about it, liked it at the beginning, and then it took over my personality. I love this series to such an extreme level. In my mind, they're basically equal. They're pretty much on the same level for me. One Piece is a comedic, silly, goofy adventure filled with found family, loyalty, freedom, emotions like I never expected. I think that Oda is one of the best themes writers I've ever read. I love reading books as stories that are not only fun adventure, great character work, complex plot, which Oda provides all these things, a really expansive, epic world with a fascinating magic system that is so versatile and that has its set of rules, but anything could happen because it really is dependent on the creativity and the personality of the user. It's full of mystery and wonder. Things interconnect on such a complex, impossible level. It's so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen next because Oda is both a masterful storyteller and also a goober, and sometimes he'll just throw something off the wall that's completely consistent with the story and totally makes sense, but also we could have never guessed in the best way. And he does all those things amazingly, but he also, in every single saga that he writes, has a core theme that he's exploring with his characters and with the island and with what's going on. And he explores themes in such a non-straightforward, complex way where he views it from so many different angles and how things affect so many different people. And my mind is constantly blown. I'm so enraptured by this world. I'm so fascinated by the magic. I feel like these characters are a part of my life. I know them, I love them, and I'm always so excited to see what Oda's gonna do next. I'm obsessed. Obsessed. Lord of the Rings, you may not need a description for this one, so I'll keep it brief. This is a series that I watched growing up. I watched the movies growing up and I loved them despite not being a movie watcher at all. I love the Lord of the Rings. I love the expansive world. I love the soft magic system that nobody understands, but that is so beautiful. I love the journey that Frodo goes on, not just physically, but the trials that he goes through and how it changes him. Again, themes in Lord of the Rings, so strong. I know Tolkien is very wordy in his landscapes and in his long drawn out scenes where he really could condense, but honestly, The Gentleman Bastards is one of my favorite series. I clearly don't have issues with that if I'm enjoying the story, and that's where I'm a hypocrite. There are so many books that I read and I say, this could really be condensed, this needed a better editor, and then there are series that I read that I'm like, this could really be condensed. I'm glad it wasn't. I'd like to live here longer. I guess I really should have held up One Piece for that too, huh? Wow, I'm a hypocrite. If I love a series, I want to live in it forever. And if the writing is beautiful, which I think Tolkien is a very beautiful writer, then I'm happy to hang out as long as we need to and talk about building or making manufactured chairs. I picked up the wrong book. Talk about chairs and building chairs and what we're gonna do for these chairs for, I don't care how many pages. Okay, anyway, sorry. Lord of the Rings. It's a series that I grew up watching, and when I read the books, at first, it took me a while to get into Tolkien's writing style. At first, I wasn't mystified, but I fell in love. And now this series has not only been a series that I love to revisit, that never gets old, that can never be knocked off my top 5 list, but also it's been a companion to me in really hard times, and it is forever isolated as a really significant series in my life. And I don't get tired of it. I don't get done with it. I'm actually doing a reread really soon, and I can't wait. I started a reread a while back, but then the adoption got busy. Wow, same with this. I started a reread of this. I got through 2 of the 3 books, but then the adoption got busy. Adoption's done, time to read. Beartown! Bachman is my favorite author. He has to show up in this list even though he primarily writes standalones. Beartown isn't my favorite books by him, but it is my favorite series by him, and book 3's coming out and I'm nervous because it's gonna hurt. He's always looking for the humanity in people. He's always looking for the answer of how to deal with complex situations, how to understand each other, how to love each other better. This is a really tough subject matter. It's about a girl who was raped, and the town, the entire town, is reacting to it, and they're reacting to it, some very well, some very poorly, because this is a hockey town, it was by a hockey player, and it's rough. It's a rough story, but it's complicated and it's nuanced, and he knows how to explore something very sensitive in a very painful, honest way. I would say that this would not be my first recommendation for Bachman, because he wants to talk about and be in the perspective of everybody in the town, and you have to be patient with it, but it, I think, is well worth it. Next book. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. At the time that I am recording this video, I have read the first 3 books. I have 2 more to read. People advise me not to read those 2, or at the very least, not to read the last one. I will, because I love this series, and I don't care if the last 2 books are utter garbage. I don't care if I hate every single word on every single page of the series. It will still be in my favorite series list. This book is unlike anything I've ever read. It is so clever and witty and chaotic, yet intentional. It's hilarious. I laugh on every page, nearly. The characters are ridiculous, but they make sense. It is the most focused and nuanced chaos ever, and I'm in love with it. And as I said in a recent reading vlog on my second channel, every book has been a step down. Book 1 is perfect. Book 2 was a step down. Book 3 was a step down from book 2. I expect that pattern to continue because people tell me it will. I'm fine with it. Book 1 set the bar so high that I'm still having a great time with each and every step down. I'm still having the best time. It's getting less chaotic, even though it's still chaotic. It's getting more borders. The plot is, while a very loose, very, very loose plot, it's still causing the series to have to be less chaotic and to have more shape and form to it. I don't care. I'm still having the best time. It's so quotable, it's so funny, there's a reason it has seeped into just culture in general, and everybody, if I say there's a robot named Marvin, everybody knows who he is. If I say that I want to know the answer to life, the universe, and everything, you know what number to give me. Actually, I'm moving this to number 5 because Hitchhikers surpassed this. Book 3 is coming out this year, so maybe I'll shift things around, but number 4, number 5. That's my top 5 list. I have an honorable mention to Malazan. Now that I am knees deep into book 3, I'm just amazed by this series. I'm gonna be really blunt with you. I'm not smart enough for this series. A lot goes over my head. I'm holding the series loosely in my hands as I read it. And what I mean is, I'm taking it all in, I'm reading everything, but I'm also just accepting I'm not gonna understand everything that's happening here. So if something happens that is clearly smarter than me, I'm just like, that's okay. You can have this one. I'll just keep reading for the characters. This world is brutal and tragic and painful. The plot is complex and really clever and really cool, but the characters are what are doing it for me. While this is the most challenging series to read that I have ever read, it taxes my brain. I don't understand it all, and I have to I regularly want to go talk to people who know more about the series so that they can explain some things to me. With all that being true, these are some of the most authentic feeling characters I've ever read. Even characters that I don't like, I feel so attached to and like I understand them so well. And this series has put me through more authentic, intense emotions than most series do. Not more than any series, but more than most series do. And to the point that after I finished book 2, I needed a long break before I started book 3 because it just hurt me so bad. I couldn't move on right away. It's tragic. It's devastating. It's such a real depiction of that devastation, though. It doesn't feel like anything is there for shock factor. It feels like everything is there to have a discussion and to look really starkly at some stuff. I'm gonna see what the series does from here. I'm gonna see if I have the emotional bandwidth to get through it all. But right now, it's just really doing something to me. So it's just gonna hang out in this sphere without actually being on the list. So there you go, those are my favorite series as of right now. Hopefully next year, the series will evolve and grow some more. Some series that got knocked off the list from last year, don't worry, I still love them. And because of what the nature of these types of videos are, I know there will be tons of comments saying, what about this series? I thought you loved this series. Don't worry, I do still love that series. And if this list was just a little bit longer, I'm sure that series would have been the next one on the list. I still love a lot of series other than these ones. These just happen to be my top 5, plus an honorable mention. Please do continue to chat with me about this in the comments. What are your top 5 series? What do you think about my top 5? Do you like any of them? Have I convinced you to pick 1 or 2 up? Check out my Patreon if you feel like it. We buddy read a lot of books. It's a great way to read more. We also watch movies. We also just hang out and chat about nothing. I'm there a lot.